3, 2. Welcome back, everyone, to The Boiling Point, episode 23, SpaceX, the next generation. I am joined by my guest at this time, Mizpah, or Nick, as we call him, on the show. And, of course, if Mizpah is here, then that means The Breeze is here off camera. She will be our fact checker if we need to go to her for any kind of fact checking or to get us any information. And if you enjoy the podcast, please like, share it out, comment. That's the way I'm going to continue to get more viewers and grow the show. Also, if you're not watching this on Rumble, make sure you start going to rumble.com. You can search the Boiling Point podcast. Mine will pop up. That is where the majority of the episodes will be from now on. If you're watching this on YouTube, you have about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we will be ending the episode, and you will have to go to Rumble in order to view the rest of it. So, also visit our, buy some clothing, like the JDEDESIGNz shirt that you always see me wear. Bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz, and that's with a Z. Or you can go to bonfire.com/The Boiling Point Podcast and get yourself some new Boiling Point gear, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, hoodies, and, of course, the Boiling Point mug, which I still don't have one for a prop here, but in the next few weeks I will be getting myself one.
Well, Christmas is coming.
Yes, it is. Mizpah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, as always, especially since I had a couple people not able to make it to their episodes this week because we had a huge snowstorm here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, everybody was buried.
Yeah, we got about 12 inches in... 12 hours or so, you think?
About that, yeah.
We pretty much got about an inch an hour there here in Pennsylvania. So the two episodes that I did have planned for the end of the week, I was not able to get to. Jordan was not able to make it, with the snowstorm and stuff. But we'll have him on again probably, hopefully next week. He'll be able to have some time to be on. And then, of course, Comets was going to be on, but I was not able to meet with him because of the snowstorm. My schedule didn't match up with his, so we weren't able to have that one. So if you were looking forward to that one, my apologies. We will still have Comets and Jordan on the show soon, maybe next week, but with Christmas coming, it may be until after Christmas at this point till we get another new episode. So in case this is the last one, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and you don't get too snowed in. Nick, we're going to talk about space travel today, something that you and I have wanted to do now. We talked about doing for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
With space travel happening again finally. NASA for a while there, we weren't even hardly going to space. It's been a few years since NASA even had a shuttle that could get us to space.
Well, yeah, there for a while there was no space travel at all.
That's right, yeah. But now they release it to the private companies, could develop their own rocket programs. SpaceX being one of them. They've already gone into space. There's Virgin Galactic, which has not launched yet, but they're still working on their shuttle, and I think they have one planned for next year, or 2021. Yeah, I think Virgin Galactic will be going to space next year, and SpaceX is already planning on moon missions, possible Mars mission, and they're sending civilians up.
Yeah, I think you had said something about that earlier. They were going to have their first private individual.
Yes, he's going to be going up next, what did I say? Was it 2021? Is that what I said?
2023?
Oh, 2023. That's when it was. Yes, 2023. SpaceX will be launching their first, not civilian, but like their first passenger. Yeah, their first passenger, really.
Yes.
He's going up. They're going to take him around the moon, from what I understand. I don't think there's going to be a moon landing, but they're going to take him as in orbit around the moon. That's what I think that they're doing. They're doing
just doing
passenger missions to the space station, I think, and also if you want to go around the moon, I believe is what those are the two that they're offering right now. I cannot tell you how much that is. I have been looking. I have not found a price. There's probably a reason for that, as it's probably astronomical. No pun intended.
So I do want to touch a little bit on the privatization of the space industry and allowing private companies and individuals to be able to explore space. In my opinion, I think that really set off advancements and improvements in technology to be able to go to space.
I agree.
Yeah, NASA, I mean, they did a lot of advancements and stuff, but I feel like the reason NASA was, shut down, limited from space travel
was their funding, but that's because politicians are in control of that.
And with the funding, normally you don't get funding unless you have something to show for it. And there for a while, NASA was kind of getting a little stagnant.
Yeah, people do like to say that, but I'd like to remind everybody who and you're in a way you are right. They stopped. They weren't doing things. They stopped going to the moon. They were just going to the space station for a while. But the one thing that, even though that NASA itself wasn't doing too many things to get them on the front page or whatever, the Hubble telescope. I mean, they've had more cover on Time magazine than anybody else due to the Hubble telescope taking pictures. Yeah. So while you're right that they weren't necessarily making the front page, or they weren't, in the mainstream, with what they were doing, the Hubble telescope still brings us back some phenomenal pictures all the time.
And I would agree with that. But as far as technology advancement, how many shuttles did they create? They stuck with that one main shuttle for how many years?
Yeah, well, when they went to the shuttles and got rid of the disposable rockets, when they started using the reusable shuttles, I believe they had 3
renditions of it.
They had 3 shuttles. The one, I can't remember the name of it, that exploded when it was on its way to space. Was that the Challenger? Challenger, yeah. And then I'm totally drawing a blank on the other 2. Let me see if I can find the name of the NASA.
Well, why bother?
Shuttles.
We have the Breeze.
Oh, Breeze.
Yes.
Yes, that's good. Breeze, could you find us the names of the NASA shuttles that have since been retired and the one that exploded, which I'm pretty sure is the Challenger? But what were the name of the other 2 shuttles that they had? Because I'm pretty sure they had 3 of them. There was Challenger, and then there were 2 other ones that I really can't remember the name. I'm not even coming close on.
And the thing is I knew them. I can't think of them right now either.
Yeah.
But
that's because we're doing the podcast.
Of course.
That's the way it works.
All right. So,
oh, she has an answer. Go ahead.
Discovery.
Yes.
Was the first to be retired. That completed its final mission March 9th, 2011.
March 9th, 2011.
Yeah.
Endeavor. Retired on June 1st.
2011?
That does not say. It just says June 1st. I'm assuming 2011 as well, though, yes.
Yeah.
And then the final shuttle mission was completed by Atlantis.
That was the other one I couldn't remember too, yeah.
And that was July 21st, 2011.
Okay. So all of the 3 have been were retired in 2011, and Challenger blew up some years prior to that.
Yes, that was in like the 80s, I think, the Challenger had. Do you want me to fact check that?
Yeah, sure. Find out when that was. I think it was in the 90s, but I would want to say 97. I'm going to jump out on a limb. 96, 97 is when Challenger exploded. But it could be much sooner than that.
Sir, 1986.
86! I was off by a decade. So, that's why we have the Breeze here to fact check us when Mizpah and I are here, because we like to speculate, and she's here to make sure we don't do that too much.
On track.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's good that we released it to private companies. The government isn't supposed to be doing that, and we can even jump over and talk about the post office then if you want for a minute, because technically I think they're both in the same boat. The space program and the post office are kind of in the same boat. They're institutions that the government made because that's the government, that's what they do. They made a program so that we could do space flight. And we were doing space flight, the mail, the USPS, which they set up to be able to deliver mail. But public companies now are taking over those, and that's why people say, oh, the post office is going out of business, Well, really, in a way, that's kind of what we want. We want private companies to be doing the mail. We don't want the government to do it, because they're going to compete with each other and drive prices down, and, you know what I mean? That's why they're putting the United States Post Office out of service. The same thing with space flight. We stopped making shuttles. We stopped going to space. It was time to release it to the private company. Let them develop it and let private companies do it. Private companies do things better than the government. There's a long history of that.
I don't think I see the U.S. Postal Service going anywhere.
Well,
I mean, yeah, they're struggling, and yeah, they have some financial issues. But
the Democrats are going to try and save it as long as they can, but they're losing money, and that's because people are using other things. Amazon has its own distribution network now. You have UPS, you have FedEx.
But Amazon and UPS and FedEx and all of them, they have been contracting with the Postal Service
only because they don't have enough
during
trucks.
Holidays.
Only because they don't have enough trucks.
But it's cheaper for them to do the contract with the Postal Service than to have their own trucks.
For now.
Because with your own trucks comes maintenance.
Yeah, no,
costs,
I mean,
and then you have to have the crew for that maintenance.
Yeah. And
plus parts and labor, and it's easier just to have a contract with somebody and let them deal with all that.
And while you're not wrong, yes, but that's only for now. I don't think that that's going to be, because if this is the way the post office is going to survive, they're going to have to raise their prices on those guys, and then it's eventually going to be, you know what I mean? Like you just said, there's maintenance on the trucks. You have to employ the people who do these trucks. Mm-hmm. So if the post office isn't making any money, how many more years can they be contracted out to?
Well, and I don't understand how the post office wouldn't be making any money because
they have too many employees and not enough mails going through. There's nobody buying stamps.
Have you seen how much junk mail's in your inbox?
I have noticed an increase in the amount of mail I get from Amazon and UPS and FedEx as opposed to in my mailbox.
Well, then we're getting two different sets
you
of mail.
You live up in the sticks a little bit more than I do. And I'm not saying that the post office the post office still is probably needed to reach some of the places that are far out there, perhaps. You know what I mean? Like I live at least in Enola, which is sort of a city, and at least it's across the river from Harrisburg. You live up the mountain a little bit more. Woods. So that would make sense. But I think in the long run, I think maybe a few more years, but I think in the long run, the United States Postal Service probably won't be around much longer. Just private companies are driving them out of business. That's what free market is. That's what it does.
Well, and we could have a whole big discussion about the post office another day.
I was just bringing that up because
I
was just bringing that up because of the space program and the post office, both things that are government ran that are kind of going the way of the dinosaur. They're both kind of closing down. I mean, NASA's obviously very important. You know, they still monitor space. NASA's obviously never going to go completely defunct. Our government will always need something to monitor space. I think it'll transition more to the Space Force that President Trump set up, assuming that the next president decides to not completely dissolve it.
Well, and I think what I had seen was that it was going to be like Space Force was going to be more of kind of like a guardian per se.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Well, I agree with that.
From a military standpoint,
the guardian thing. What I'm saying is that even from that perspective, they're going to start doing some of the things that NASA does. I'm saying eventually, eventually at some point, the Space Force and NASA may.
But as far as
merge into
exploration, I think they're always going to keep that.
Well, that's to man now. That's not NASA anymore. That's not NASA's wheelhouse anymore. That's why they released it to private companies. It's up to private companies to go and explore the universe now, not NASA. I'd be surprised if NASA ever develops another shuttle or spacecraft again. Why would they?
Well, there really wouldn't be a need for them to do that.
No, now they just
not with all the advancements that, for example, SpaceX.
Yeah, SpaceX is already doing missions for NASA to the International Space Station.
Look at where they went in 5 years?
Yeah.
Time frame?
Already sending people into space. Yeah, as soon as they released it, SpaceX was on it. Elon Musk was on it.
And then you have Galactic.
There's Virgin Galactic, and there's another company. Bree, can you find out some other companies that are doing space travel for us? I don't want to just keep talking about SpaceX and
private space travel.
Yes. But and that's what I'm saying though, that NASA, they released it. The private companies are going to invest in this because there's things that they can do to make money off of it. And that's the way it should be. The government set something up because there was no market for it. So they set
Yes.
something up that needed to happen because there was no market for it. Same with the post office. That's why these two are, I kind of consider these two things almost on a parallel. But now there are private companies that want it. There is a market for it. There
Yes.
is a market for space travel. So the government releases it to the private companies, let them develop their own rockets. Of course, they're overseeing it, making sure that they're safe and stuff. And companies don't want to be sending people into space and have the rockets explode anyway. They want space. They want safe space travel for their own company's sake. So that's what I'm saying. I think NASA is going to be just more of a monitor thing and working with these other space companies. NASA going back into space, that's done.
Well, and that may be possible. But another thing I'd like to point out is the similarities between the private sector space industry and the government space industry. The biggest one of them being it created a drive. In the government, it was a drive between different nations. You know, you had the space race,
Yeah.
first one to the moon. You had the first man on the moon, and then you had the discovery of a couple of different planets.
Yeah.
You
the space race started with who can get to space first.
Yes.
And then the Russians actually beat us to that. If I'm not mistaken, they completed their first low orbit space flight before we did.
We were the first to the moon, though.
Yes, we took over after that. They
Yes.
beat us to space, but then we kicked it into high gear, and then it was the Mercury program.
That goes back to the drive between nations. It was, almost like a rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're seeing some of that in the private sector as well.
A little bit, yeah.
But that just goes back to, common dynamics. If you and me are both striving to complete the same task,
Yeah,
we're both
competition,
going
free
to-
market competition.
yeah.
Exactly. That's what's great about this country is free market enterprise, where you want to do something and I want to do something. It's the same thing. Which one of us is going to be able to develop whatever it is to get us there faster? Like you're saying with the space travel.
in the government side of that was between other nations.
Yes.
So that kind of dynamic is still there. It's just morphed to fit, private industry or government.
Yeah, it's not about
sector.
it's not about the different governments competing against each other. Now it's about the different companies
Yes.
competing against each other.
And I mean, I think that's a good thing because it will bring new technologies and new development and all kinds of things.
Yes,
We'll
competition is good. Competition's
have-
always been good. That's why we have the antitrust and anti-monopoly
We're gonna
laws
be
that we have
having
in here.
space travel. Soon
SpaceX
enough, maybe we'll be having just regular citizens being able to take trips around the moon.
SpaceX is already offering. They're going to have their first civilian,
Yeah, like we had said
going
earlier.
around in 2023. They're going to take him on a trip around the moon. The first private citizen, who's not associated with the company. He's not an astronaut. He's just a guy who wants to travel into space, and they're going to do it in 2023. SpaceX is really jumping on that. They're really jumping on that. And other companies don't have a space shuttle yet that can do it, but they're working on it, and they'll get there.
And outside of just traveling in space, there's been a lot of findings just in recent history with advancements in technology. For example, we just detected our first radio waves coming from an alien planet.
No, I did not hear about that, and I do want to hear about that, and I know everybody else is, and I cannot think of a better time for us to tell YouTube to go piss off. So, if you're enjoying this episode, please go switch on, and you're watching it on YouTube, please switch over, go to rumble.com, search the Boiling Point Podcast, and find episode 23, SpaceX, The Next Generation. You can find it on Rumble. That's where the remainder of this episode will be.
And we'll see you there.
And if you're watching on YouTube, your episode is now over.